and welcome back from the break. We're here at Trappist Transfer, ready to dive into the machine layer, or maybe not so ready, but it's going to get weird. Before we dive in, I would like everybody who took trauma last time to tell me about what stress you have, right, which is damage in terms of traumas. Remind me at the same time what your threshold is, which if you ever hit over, like your total capacity, right, that is basically like your consciousness is broken too far to come back. It's functional death. Mm-hmm. And then also, get kind of prepped for that weapon that we talked about, that program to help optimize the systems. So I know, for instance, starting off with Penelope, I don't believe Penelope took any stress last time.
Penelope has 0 traumas and 0 stress.
Mm-hmm. You kept it together. What is your thresholds for trauma?
Trauma threshold is 7, lucidity is 45, insanity is 70.
Great, yeah. So it's when you get up to 70 that's the problem, right? So
yeah,
absolutely.
How do we do the lucidity and the insanity rating? Because I have the other stuff. I just was curious.
I have everything except insanity.
Insanity is lucidity times 2.
Yeah, that's all that is.
Oh, okay.
And your lucidity, I believe,
And your
two.
Trauma threshold is your lucidity divided by 5.
Yeah, sounds right.
Cool.
Because of what you did to me, my
and so insanity is lucidity times.
I'm well aware. There's also a good reason why you're coming, probably. You feel very solid in this. And as a reminder, your will check, right, which is 3 times your will, is that sort of threshold for when you might be taking this kind of damage or not, right? How well you can hold it together. Cool. So that's good to know. So you've got, and your trauma threshold is if you take more than 7 at a time, you can get, so for instance, for Penelope, the threshold is 7. If you take more than 7, you gain a trauma, right? Yeah. And so I'm going to say, for the sake of this, like I know, actually, this is going to be part of that hour, what y'all took. I want to see, for those of you who took trauma, I'm going to finish doing these numbers here in a moment, but like how you perhaps like got rid of that trauma. And I'm going to say that, like, once you told me your numbers, I'm going to say whether you got rid of all of it or not, or what you managed to heal in that time, basically, like by connecting, grounding some of the safe space work you did, last session, Kaster, etc. Right. Mm-hmm. So let's continue around. You don't have to tell me what you've done for your hour yet. I just want these numbers, but let you kind of percolate. So, Kaster, what do you have?
So I got pretty roughed up. My trauma threshold is 6, and I took 2 traumas with a 17 total of stress taken.
You're fine.
And currently, I've got written down that I'm sitting at a -2 on initiative. I don't know if that's still a thing.
Yeah, so those -2s is because of the 2 trauma that you've got.
Got it.
I think technically a lot of checks of yours are also at -20 because of that. Is how traumas work. We haven't been playing with that too much yet, but... so then if that's the case, then I believe your lucidity is 30.
Yes, correct.
So then your insanity is going to be 60? Because it's double.
Yes,
so
yeah.
I'm more telling you than you confirming.
That's awesome. I'm so here for that.
Cool. And Penelope, you're at 0-0. Cool. So yeah, think about what you do for self-care, / already what you've done, and maybe in the next hour / how you get prepared, i.e. weapon and stuff. Come back to me with that too. And,
my lucidity and insanity don't math up in the same way because I have composure. So I got an extra 10 to my lucidity.
Okay, so you slid. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, cool. I was going to ask about that, but I trusted your numbers were in there somewhere. So sweet. All right, comms 3. What are your numbers?
Trauma threshold 6, lucidity 30, insanity rating 60, stress taken 10, 1 trauma taken.
Okay, so that means you're at a -1 and a -10 on things. -1 in initiative, -10 to other checks. But cool, we'll that's
got it.
How initiative works in this game, and we'll figure it out. But cool. But right now, like that's probably going to get cured from you, right? Think about maybe how that works through / what weapons you're picking up here over the hour. Just secure.
Okay, my trauma threshold is 11.
Huh?
My lucidity is 55, and my insanity rating is 110.
Yeah.
I have 1 trauma taken, and I've taken 19 stress.
Yeah. As a reminder to viewers, this is one of those things that is a boon to Truth Seeker because of the sort of combined consciousness, right? Is that they are self-soothing in a very literal sense, so they have an ability to kind of
doubling down on all my thoughts.
You're very assured, you're very solid, you're very stable right now.
Without it, though, I'm
that's
still at
adorable.
40 lucidity, 8 trauma, and 80 insanity. That's not bad.
That's still really good to begin with, and now you sort of double down on some things. So
Yeah.
just FYI for those watching, we made a house rule, as you do with storytelling. Great. So then kind of continuing back around over the Penelope, what have you done in the hour to prepare / what kind of weapon? Basically, you don't realize it as this necessarily, but it's kind of like what your subconscious is manifesting as your ability to interact with like programs and things on the machine layer is violence because humans, or whatever, but humans really. So
Kill all humans.
So I've been working on just like writing bits of code from what I can see in the machine layer, and then I have an assault rifle. As our weapon, we're using it in semi-automatic single shot mode.
yeah, right. So we're gotcha.
You mean business, don't
So
you?
we're turning it into basically a musket, sort of, but it's an assault rifle, what others might see. All right, Sarah Connor, with your bionic arm.
I mean, that was the assault rifle was the closest thing I could find to.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Basically, you were looking for a single shot rifle, right? And so, like, you just modified the code. This is what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
Cool.
She's done some stuff.
All that fox hunting. It's real serious.
Yeah.
Redacted.
Yeah.
Done some redacted.
Operation Fox Hunt.
Yes.
Cool. Continuing around, then.
So I feel like Kaster in that hour would have. So Kaster's been to the machine level before, and
Sort of, yes.
right. No, like I get it.
Asterisk.
Protective pocket, right? Like not in the way that we're going, but because of the kind of grounding that Kaster requires, they're going back over those experiences.
Okay,
what
cool.
little, like, kind of just to be like, what did that look like? What could we expect? Alternatively, I feel like Kaster in that hour might have also, like, again, begrudgingly poked the Truth Seeker to see if they have, like, any
Truth
additional.
Seekers. I don't know.
Sure. I don't know how they want to be referred to.
Truth sought.
Oh, all right.
That was a joke.
It's fair, but
still like it.
you're going to get it,
Good one, though.
right?
I was thinking
Character
something
sheet
along
Yeah.
those things.
Cool. So keep going.
Just so you know, I haven't used any of my customization points, and we're getting to the point of the weapon part is because of Kaster's constant interaction with, like, Pollux and the mesh and everything. I imagine them honestly utilizing some amount of melee, though whatever that looks like in non-meat space.
You're going to be free to describe that if you so choose.
Great.
I mean, it's really your subconscious coming up with it, so
Cool.
I like that. I'll roll with it. So literally, we're gonna roll with it. So do me a favor and make a psychosurgery roll.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I haven't actually made a good roll this.
Not everybody has it.
Oh, okay.
So I got 58.
Cool. So I know you've got a pretty high psychosurgery, and then you've also got an augmented score on it, which I'm not sure exactly why. Possibly some of your perks, right? If you can speak to that, great. If not, we can get back to it later. But based on your perk or specificity with psychosurgery, that's why I want to know why you have a 75 on it.
Oh.
Because that might be relevant. That's the only reason.
Right, sure. I was thinking about just the way that Kaster might have come up as far as, like we were talking about experimenting on oneself to create the stack system. The what were we calling it? Oh, okay, great.
Digital consciousness, all that.
Great.
You're on it.
On
it. All of that.
Sleeving, exactly. So I just saw psychosurgery as like a component of all of that.
For sure. What I'm meaning specifically, though, is that I see your score that you've got on the right. So you've got like a 60 in it. I think.
Uh-huh.
And you've got a score on the right that says, I think it says 75.
Correct.
To me,
Because
unless I'm
we...
interpreting that wrong, I'm reading that as you've also added something else in it in terms of like your customization.
No, I thought that that's what we did for, like, I thought we added part of our...
Did you put 60 in and then it's your score on top of that?
Yeah,
That's what it is?
uh-huh.
Oh, okay, so that's the flat without any augmentations.
Correct.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. No, that works for me.
Sorry, like, I did this first just so I knew where the
I'm just
things
trying to,
came
yeah,
from.
for sure, I was trying to read it. So,
Yeah.
no, cool, that makes sense. Now that I understand. So, yeah, that is absolutely part of you. Like, I 100% see. So, yeah, your score is 75. So, with what, you rolled a 58?
Uh-huh.
Killed it. So, yeah, I would say, like, for you, all of your traumas and stresses are taken care of.
Whew. All right, cool.
Just saying. And double check the skill there. Which attribute is it connected to? Cog, I think.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Great. So then I already got your weapons and all that jazz. Sweet. So moving around the table over to Comms 3. What is Comms 3 doing in this hour? One, what does their quote unquote weapon look like? And yeah, what have you done to kind of like soothe perhaps yourself or take care of yourself or prep in the next last hour?
Yeah, I'm having like a kind of a dysmorphia event where when I rolled really super low on that, like entering into the machine space, that was like vertigo, like where I experienced something where I didn't just fit in the world that I was in for a moment, like where I started to think like I was in this shape that I had given myself, like kind of like I had, when I created the image of myself, I created a field around to like push the energy into the shape of me, so that I had like the sense of this is me, this is my body. And then when I tried to get back into the machine space, it was like I was treating the machine space like it was like I was a body falling through space, like in all those like I had been witness to all these messages from people who were feeling this on Earth, like that everything was ending, and they felt like they were just like everything was pulled out from underneath them. They were falling into the void, and I had a sense of that, and so I kind of snapped back into into that field that I had created, the field that is me shaped, and tried again, but this time I remembered that I come from this place. I belong here.
You're spending
and then it's like it's kind of like the when the child encounters the pool of water, doesn't know how to swim.
Gotcha.
The first attempt at it is shocking and terrifying, but then when you realize that you're okay, then you jump in, then it's a completely different experience, and that's what I'm working at.
You're doing like iterative learning processes in this course to kind of like come comfortable with yourself,
right?
To feel that level of presence,
right?
Ooh. Fascinating. I
and
like that.
That's how I attempted to deal with my trauma.
So cool. What is your cognitive score? Cog.
My cog is 25.
Okay. I have a couple ideas for how this roll is going to go. There's degrees. So roll your cognitive score. Actually, what's your will? Also, it's
my will is 15.
So 3 times that is 45.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you, because the way you describe it, I'm going to have you roll your will check. So 45. And then I've got a couple different outcomes based on what you roll.
14.
That was great. So what I want you to do is, so your trauma goes away. You have 1 trauma. You now have 0. And roll me a D10, just a flat D10.
10.
that worked out really well for you. You had 10 stresses. You now have 0 stresses. You brought yourself very well together with that will check, right? Like you, in terms of like your trauma, and good job for remembering as well, was rooted in that coming to self, right? That trauma of being like overwhelmed by humanity slamming into you, right? And now you're like reiterating that P.O.L is just all of those screaming thoughts and that consciousness and Dr. Strangelove and every bit, and you're kind of like diving back into it and is no longer afraid of that ocean spray. Right. And you, at the same time, though, you very much recognize when you looked at the machine language, the machine layer, that you're not of that space anymore. And that while you are better prepared to deal with that space, this new network that you have access to, that you've created, is going to be somewhat traumatized by being there as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Well done. All right, Truth Seeker.
Do you not have a weapon?
Oh, yeah. What's your weapon, if you have a weapon?
Never really given it much thought.
Words. I don't know. I mean, honestly, it doesn't have to be a weapon, but it's kind of like it kind of has to be a weapon. If like you're defaulting nothing, it's like fists or something like that.
No grenades.
Can you flash brightly to cause seizures? Is that
eyeball lasers?
I'm thinking about that. Okay, I would say a grenade works, but you have like one. You've got your like that's all you think of. It's not like you've got like a pack of them or anything along those lines. You've got a grenade and then your fists. Basically, those are the two things. You're like,
and this is for real space stuff.
Yeah, this is the machine layer. This is a representation, right? It is a weapon representation. I'm doing some hand wavy.
Is this something that I encountered before in the machine space? Or is this a new development?
This is a new development. This is, I mean, in fact, I would say for you, it's the holy hand grenade, because somebody definitely passed on Monty Python. It doesn't necessarily have the property. It has properties of a grenade, but just to be clear, like it's some you're picking out some representation of like protection or this. Okay, like how you come to it.
I don't remember whether I shot 6 bullets or 7. So ask yourself. Do you feel lucky? So I want the Dirty Harry gun.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. I like that.
Yeah.
Cool. So you've got whatever.
A gigantic handgun.
Cool. Yeah. Gigantic handgun. I'll say you have 6 bullets.
seems legit?
Yeah. Seems legit. Right?
It's probably 6 bullets, not 7. Anyway. 6 bullets. It doesn't matter.
9 bullets? I don't know how many bullets. I have not watched that movie.
I apparently forgot how many bullets.
Damn it. Dirty Harry.
Yes.
All right. I like that.
Your Dirty Harry reference.
Self-care.
Okay.
Weapon. Question mark.
So, Truth Seeker will kind of realize, like, there's a lot going on and they have to deal with their own personalities right now. So they're going to go back to their space. And basically, they're going to do what they do best, and that is reflect and, like, take down an account of what happened. And so this is a little bit taxing when they first start out because they have...
How are you taking this down? Like by hand? Like you're kind of writing it out? Because you're in your personal space.
Yes,
right?
Truth Seeker literally is like writing it out. Like, I mean, it's obviously not like an actual journal or in a virtual hold, but like
it's a representation.
It's essentially like a representation of like this is how they like catalog their stuff, and then it goes into an archive, and they can access it again and do what they want with it. I'm
gonna say that you are in that common space shared in your sort of consciousness.
Yeah.
And at the very center of that common space is a desk, but 4 desks that are kind of linked together in a bit of a square, all sort of like in front of the hallways of the respective copies. And the others are simultaneously sitting at the desk and doing like the exact same motions you are. Like this is how the backup is also working, is that you are like writing into the collective journal and they're all gaining these pieces.
That's part of how I make my backups?
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's messed up.
And then it goes to their library.
Sorry. The script, yeah.
But cool, good.
I mean, yeah.
It's like it's like
Blink twice for help.
Salvia divinorum messed up.
Good. I'm glad.
I also,
sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. I just was drink.
Wait, are we doing? Would you say sorry too? Sorry,
I mean,
sorry.
I apologize.
No, I imagine this like a lot of us like going through new stuff. I imagine like this is a new thing. Like, oh,
that's fine, Mark.
How everybody's doing the same thing, but.
No. I'm just like that we all drank. I'm listening to this, and I just hear dumps the alcohol in, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be that game. Let's do this. No.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was this the good stuff? Cool. Okay, so you're back. Your safe space is also your backup, and like your sort of processing, your unpacking and healing.
I think that it's kind of just starting off with like Truth Seeker trying to do what they always do, and that's writing down what happened and taking like an unbiased account in their opinion, whatever that means. And
I like that even you already have that question.
Anyway, and so as they're doing that, it starts to get really frustrating because they realize that their voices are kind of warring in the way that they want to present the information, and that's kind of where like. I mean,
not like every word, but like everyone.
Not like every word, but it's enough that it's getting really frustrating. Like, you have to realize that Alpha has been on this ship for a long time, so they have a lot of better context for the people they were just talking to, as well as, like, what's happening and, like, what's going on.
A different truth, perhaps?
A different truth. So when they're trying to write it down, it's like, what am I even supposed to be doing? And they start to kind of spiral a little bit, and they're like, all right, this is how I'm going to center myself.
Before I do that.
And they start to, sorry, I have trouble. And they start to,
you're doing great.
And they start to look through their archives, like they have their entire hallway, so it's almost like they like start to walk in their truths to like calm themselves, and they start just like pulling random books off the shelves and like kind of like looking like, this is who I am, this is who both of us are, we know these are our truths, and it's kind of like, let's like recenter and like try to get on the same page, because like otherwise this isn't going to work and we won't be able to like to be able to do our primary function, right? So it's almost like they realize that like their normal methods aren't working, and they're trying to like level with each other by like being like, this is our truth, and kind of like doing a little bit of like research into who they are, I guess, if that makes any sense. I
also imagine a really great like full-length mirror at some point, and just like, no, this is who we are. Staring at it, it's like, I affirm you. Just having moments, but like, yeah, just kidding. I love your like touching the book pieces. Like, that's really cool.
I feel like it's like a tangible like recentering. That's what I liked about it. I don't know.
No, it's good. I mean, because that's where your traumas primarily came from, right? Which is, to be clear, this is not always the mechanism we're going to do in terms of healing traumas in the game, although I'm kind of liking it as a processing unpacking for me, frankly, as a character player. Maybe I should do this more often. But in this particular case, especially the way that these traumas have come about for everybody, I like this as a way of character development, but also of like how you're healing and processing. So, very cool. I mean, honestly, I dug that a lot, and especially from the new boon that you've gotten in terms of like locking your shit down in this regard. I'm going to say...
Like they're validating each other.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a will check.
Okay.
What's your will?
My will is 20.
But so 60 is your piece, right? Because the will check is like triple that for this case.
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I rolled an 80.
Ooh, that's a lot. So here's what's gonna happen. You are gonna heal that one trauma.
Okay.
But your stresses are sticking around all night.
I'm still gonna have 18 of them.
Yeah, it's 18.
Sorry, I counted my dashes wrong before. I didn't say 18.
No, I had 19 down, but it's entirely possible. I just wrote it down wrong.
I've got 3 5s and a 3. I did tallies.
3 5s and a 3. So 18. Cool. Gotcha. Gotcha. And that sounds good. What is your weapon then?
Oh, so I feel like Truth Seeker's biggest weapon is kind of their strength of resolve, and that's always been their biggest weapon. So the way that would kind of like
giant book that says resolve.
The way that would kind of come like tangibly, I think, is like something like the Densiplast gloves, which are just like extra hardened gloves and activate that just allows you to punch really well. So it's almost like they are like strengthening themselves with their own resolve and truth, and they're just gonna fuck some shit up.
You're gonna backhand people with the
truth,
the hand of truth,
the hand
touch
of truth. Yes.
Oh,
the backhand of truth.
I really hope this actually becomes a thing, and you just fight people with the hand of truth. It's like, wham! Take that, Joffrey. Thank you. Anyway, cool. I like that. So he really did. All right, so you show back up, unless anybody else has another thing to talk about. Cool. Well done. Thank you. I like that. So you show back up to Kaster's office, frankly. Actually, I'm going to say that Pollux has sent you messages in the meantime, leading you to an adjacent office, perhaps, as nearby. In fact, you've never recognized the door. It's wasn't there before. Just in the hallway, a new door popped up. And you're like, oh, all right. This happens often.
Sure.
But basically, there's a sign on the door that says authorized personnel only, and you're like, I think that means us.
Are we allowed to go in
Authorized Kaster personnel only.
Yeah. Pollux says, yes, in your ear. Come on in.
there? Okay. Just checking.
Clearly, we're authorized.
It says authorized personnel only, and I was not told or given a badge. Were you?
Yeah, but
Where is my lanyard?
has that ever stopped you before?
Purely by touche, Truth Seeker.
You can't handle the truth.
Oh.
Have you even seen that movie?
Actually, you just like touch the panel with the gloves of truth. But so the door opens.
Yes.
And there's this really strange sight that greets you, kind of like, and you get the sense when Pollux says like, "Hello, please keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times. We're about to take off." You recognize, so you in particular, maybe it's less relevant to other people in the room, but you know of them. Basically, a roller coaster seat, like a two road, two people in front, two people in back, like a single car.
Does it click down?
Of a roller coaster?
Jurassic
with
Park?
yeah, a little. Maybe not Jurassic Park. Are we talking about the ride?
More like Oaks
We've never
Park.
been to the ride. I'll go with Oaks Park. But it's just like, it's very stylized 21st century seats. In fact, like the sides of the car are done up in a very interesting carnival way. Like Pollux, like nobody else would pick this up, but Kaster maybe sees that like Pollux is actually a little proud, like in terms of like some little things that Pollux is saying to you, Kaster. Kind of like, I found this representation. This is like, like
This is amusement.
yeah, like this is supposed to ease the ride and transition for you, because this thing is sitting in front of like just a dark hole with like a track leading into it, and
I feel like
Pollux
that just adds
seems
to
really
the
excited.
anticipation.
Yeah, no, but I mean,
That like
I didn't say
that feeling you get in your like chest when you're like going up on a roller coaster and you know you're gonna drop, but like you can't see the end of the top, so you're just looking into darkness, and I feel like that would just tenfold that feeling. You know what I mean? You're just like sitting there with the anticipation of like, where is this fucking taking me? Because I know it's gonna drop. Like, I don't know.
I didn't say that Pollux was doing a good job at this.
Pollux is trying.
Only this is the job that Pollux
I
is
don't know
showing.
if Truth Seeker is afraid, but I actually would be terrified. I hate heights. I would just be like, oh my god.
I'm really
When
happy
is
with
the
this.
drop happening?
This is exactly my goal, was to increase your anxiety as a player.
Yes.
So, Mark, you
Sorry,
look
did I
like you
ruin
have
it?
something to say. Or Comms 3 has something to say.
You can't fall when there is no up. Time's a wasting. Everybody get on board. And then I get in and like,
The front.
in the front, and I like clamp it down. And
Penelope just swears under her breath.
You get in.
Oh, yeah.
Can I sit next to Calm?
Yeah. You two in front.
Penelope is totally fine, but she's like, this being is inane.
I like how honest they are. Straight up.
I like to believe that this is happening in person, by the way. So, in character, I like how honest you are.
No, yeah, straight up.
I feel like Kaster would be in this particular scenario, given all other like wacky variables, is like literally just goes, cool. We're gonna do this now, Pollux? Great. Well, okay. Like Kaster's just ready for this. This is fine.
Pollux has our best interests at heart.
I'm unfazed by you.
Penelope's eyes roll further back into her head.
I like to believe that you specifically wrote a mod to allow you to roll your eyes in the avatar.
Right?
Like, no, this
If it
needs to
gets
happen.
any worse, it's gonna be Beetlejuice, and they're just gonna bounce across the mesh.
She'll be like, gets in and is like, yeah, Pollux is going to protect us. That's the whole point.
Nice.
But all of this is like in her head, or like just like clearly
Like an aside.
facial expression and angry muttering.
I imagine that I'm just all kinds of uncanny valley.
If I had a nickel.
That's that's what I'm kind of going for. Is just that it's just like I'm trying super hard but falling like just short.
Great. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the name for the second part of this session after the break. Uncanny Valley. Bill, write it down. No, I dig that. So I'm imagining you like you've clicked down. I want everybody to describe something similar, and you can tell me if you don't want to do this. But like after you've clicked down the roller coaster and you're ready to go, you're almost bouncing a little bit, and you've got like your gun like on the railing, kind of just like it's just like holding it out in front of you.
Yeah, this giant gun.
Yeah, like real giant gun. Yeah, cool. What do you look like?
What do I look like?
Like in terms of your like body posture, presence in the seat, click down.
Okay.
I'll get back to you in a second, but
Truth Seeker
with
is
your
just
weapon.
kind of like sitting very like erect and poised next to comms while like they're bouncing around, completely unfazed and really not looking at them very much, but it's just kind of like waiting
holding shit
and trying
together.
to like, and honestly is really contemplating what comms said right before they got on, and that's why they chose to sit next to them. Is about there is no up here, and that really like is like settling with Truth Seeker and being like, I can't put the like confines of like what I'm used to on my mind right now, and it's just kind of like centering themselves in. So they're just kind of like very like quiet retrospective. There's no gun bouncing, but
Not
You know,
yet.
gloves. So, right.
have
The
a-
gate is down.
truth slap gloves.
Anyway, you have one more piece to add before we go to
Oh
second
yeah,
row?
yes. That I'm dressed in a 23rd century cowboy outfit.
Describe
Is
to me
there
what a
a 23rd?
23rd century cowboy looks
Like-
like.
That's what I was gonna say.
Like a very synthetic powder blue, very highly stylized jacket and matching pants that have a slight bootcut flare.
This is real specific, thank
This
you.
is very 60s cowboy.
Well, everything cycles around.
But I feel like
eventually,
the glitter
but-
on it, like the what would be the rhinestones, are actually digitized glitter. It's like
Right,
yeah.
right. This is all just a. This is all just a.
I love
Like
this
I'm
outfit
interpreting
so
a
much.
weird I'm interpreting a weird video that I accessed on the ship's
Yeah.
stores, and it was probably just like someone's like I said, it's like a to us players a futuristic interpretation of what a cowboy would look like. I'm just borrowing that image and put it on myself with the gun, and I like run a little script, and I spin the gun in my hand, but I just keep spinning it.
Truth Seeker just kind of reaches out and goes.
I would say you're not
"Let's
even moving your
shoot
hand at
anybody."
all.
Yeah, right.
It's just like you do that, and then
Just the gun is like spinning, and then goes into the powder blue holster.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just something
I was like, can you
ridiculous
not
like
shoot
that.
us before we leave?
little Billy.
That's
Yeah.
little Billy is going into
Futuristic cowboy little Billy.
yes.
Yes, that's amazing.
That's terrifying. I love it.
So let's say I've
also
gotten
known
up
as
to
Mike TV.
I'm now at age 5.
right.
Cool. Oh, good. So now you're a generic 5-year-old
Yes.
with a gun.
You gave a generic 5-year-old a gun. I'm just saying.
Don't
You
even-
did say, "What weapon do you want?"
No, I knew what I'm getting into.
Yeah.
Continue. What do you got? Second row of the roller coaster seat.
Second row, Penelope's.
With, by the way, rocket ships on the side of it. That's what I mean by the like
I kind of
amusement.
knew what you meant.
Please, you're going in on
Is this 1962 World's Fair kind of
Yes.
stuff?
Yes, exactly.
Nice.
Penelope is very much like, let's just get this show on the road and fix this ship. And why do you have to sparkle to fix this? But not just
Which is
very
something
much
that Connor would never say.
very much just sitting there and like, can we go? Not saying
How
anything.
are you holding your assault rifle? Or are you?
I'm gonna say that the assault rifle hasn't shown up yet.
Nice. Right, it's a program.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Cool.
So
And
maybe it's personal.
yes, don't judge me. This hardly ever happens. Sometimes the assault rifle shows up later. Okay. Abby, come on, let's go. Keep it together.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, is this Kaster right now?
No, actually, like, so because of the sort of like giving up to Pollux, like Pollux has now kind of like put us in a state of like, oh, I gotta take you somewhere, you gotta go do this thing. Like, Kaster is kind of like back into that comfort zone of like, oh, I know this. I trust that one. Great. And so like, I am like aware of the tomfoolery and the fact that Penelope is like perturbed, though that's not new. That is standard Penelope.
Always.
Right.
Like standard Penelope is a good phrase. I'm gonna This is standard Penelope.
So what I would imagine is that while in the front seat you've got different things going on. You've got like ridiculousness, and you've got like a little bit of like freaked out, but like rolling it in, and standard Penelope is that Kaster is just kind of actually like taken a moment to like, because like we're about to journey, so Kaster's like, cool, well, I don't have to do anything here. Like, I probably will have to pay some amount of attention, but this is a great opportunity for me to multitask. And like, so
It's catching up on my emails.
right. Well, and that's the thing is
I gotta check on my my Tamagotchi.
Oh, dear
That is
God.
so weird. I was like, feeding Tamagotchi.
listen, it pooped
killed
on
one
the
of those.
floor during the solar flare.
I really gotta deal with that.
You not only do you have to clean it up, but you have to reprimand it, or it'll do it again. It's important.
This is really apropos of what we're about to go do.
No, but this is apropos if you're going to play
it is
Tamagotchi.
Dan's.
Oh, okay. Got it.
you're about to go clean up after some Dan's and
Right.
the floor.
Yeah.
The processor floor.
And smack them on the nose so they don't do it again.
What's your weapon?
Or, you know-
Rolled up newspaper.
Right.
Assault rifle. I'm going to take pot shots at Tamagotchis.
So more than anything, I would imagine what Kaster is looking at is like sort of like, so previously they were looking at their memories of this space, and then like, you know, sharing with Truth Seeker, sort of maybe looking at like potential like whatever a map might look like just sort of like potential structures. Like, I'm not trying to like put it in any particular way. That's a good face. Thank you for that.
That's what I got for you.
And then ultimately just sort of like preparing as much as possible, because like we're kind of gonna go be in who knows
Cowboys.
what. Yeah. Well, and right. And the main thing that Kaster has is like physical stuff. Like, so like trained in martial arts, trained in hand to hand, you know, that kind of stuff. So we'll see.
So unassuming, and then it's gonna judo you, take
Right.
you down.
I know
Right.
Kung Fu.
Right.
Yeah,
I also know code, so how's that going to work out? Can I do judo code? Is that a thing?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, absolutely.
You can definitely put someone in a coded armbar.
It's like a script, you know. It connects to like the you know, virtual biomechanics.
Representative.
Well,
Which
that's
is also why I'm still making you use your like actual stats on these things, because
For
it's like
sure.
a weird coded representation of those physical pieces of yourself that carries into this digital environment.
Right.
It's how I'm justifying it.
yeah.
Don't
I
take
also
that.
see it as like when we talk about these things, it's also ways that we have trained ourselves to relate to certain kinds of like threats and information. So while we may not get like actual like meat space threats, this is how you would your consciousness would respond.
Also,
Right.
yet.
Sure. Thank you.
And
I
here
just
we
want to be
go.
real clear. Anxiety. Cool. So here's how I kind of want you to roll with me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you all sort of instruction of what to do, players, with your body in a moment when I do a thing. But just trust me in the moment. And we'll see how this goes. Limber up. No, you're fine. So you hear Pollux's voice kick out. Like, that was sultry a little bit.
Oh.
So Pollux's voice
So
kicks
that's
up.
what they see behind the cheese counter.
So Pollux's voice comes on, and it's like, okay, entering the machine layer in 10, 9, 8, 7, and at that point you hear it click, and it slams forward into the darkness. And what I would like you to do is everybody kind of like split to give a view of the sheets on the wall for a moment. So Connor, lean this way, Abby that way, Mark that way, Ashley this, Mark go that way. And I'm showing the shot. We're showing the tapestry base of the people on the wall. As you fly through that darkness, imagine a 2001 Space Odyssey level of just like crazy lights moving through the tunnel. Everything's crazy. Okay, you can zoom back in. And you get this. Basically, these tapestries are a really great representation of the feeling that you are getting in your gut, in your mind, and whatever that means in this digital space as you are sort of transitioning from what has been a comfortable reality for the majority of you for the last 3 years and a new reality that is the only reality you really know, and maybe moving back to something questionably alien now. I don't know. This is that feeling as you are sort of like floating and dissolving and reforming, and other bits of reality and presence is sort of starting to coalesce in bubbles around you. Yeah. And you see again that image of the sort of that map that Pollux first showed you. That sort of like the dark matter cluster, right? That idea of like, and you feel this coalescence as you are falling into that. And you get closer and closer as it's zooming and zooming like it was before into these like series of rooms and pieces, and you find yourself falling into one particular room and just sort of snap into it almost. Like it's strange and shocking. As you look, there's a very clear presence in the room. Like you can look around, you can see things, and I'll describe it in a moment. But simultaneously, if you kind of blur your eyes a little bit, right? Like cross your eyes slightly, magic eye level, kind of like you're aware of other layers beyond it that you can almost focus on in a really strange way, like looking through the walls perhaps without looking through the walls explicitly. Like you're seeing things overlapping in this very disconcerting sense. And as you look, you see other rooms in the distance connected and floating and moving and like connecting with other rooms and then moving and reconnecting. You see this glowing sort of core, for lack of a better term, off in the distance, where there are sort of like lines of these passageways and rooms all feeding out of that and spiraling off outside of your view into the distance. But you bring your consciousness back to that room. And Ashleen, Truth Seeker, looks into this room and sees a clock in front of you.
What kind of clock? Is it like a grandfather clock?
Like a grandfather clock.
Okay.
And it's like ticking very distinctly and then stops. And you see the time like freeze at a point and kind of like shudder and then move backwards and then stop and then continue clicking. And this door appears in the wall behind it. And the door opens and this like humanoid shape walks through, and it kind of looks oddly android-like, kind of robotic with a very human face, and it looks kind of furrowed, like kind of just like very, very focused, and comes up, opens the clock, fiddles in some things, steps back, continues clicking, like going back and forward. It seems like to be moving forward again, and then you see a door open up on the other side of the room from where it came in, and it just kind of just like bustles back and through and goes out and slams the door. And that's the room you find yourself in.
Okay.
Connor, Penelope, find the similar room, and it is just like pure white in the same way that yours is, except for this object in the center.
So just to be clear, I don't see any of them in the room that I'm in.
Nope.
Okay.
You find yourself in this room, pure white, that same sense of like crossing your eyes, magic eye level of like seeing beyond what is here, and then your consciousness slamming back down into this location. And it is a very clear like cubic room, right? Same thing all of you are. I'm probably going to add a little more pieces as I go along. But it is very clearly like, I would say like 3 meters by 3 meters by 3 meters, right? And in the very center of it, there is this stylized fountain that you would recognize, like sort of like perhaps at a manor house of yours. Like it's hard to say, like you had so many properties, your family that you visited at various points and around the world. But it is a stone sort of work fountain. Fill in whatever details you like with it, but it is sprouting off the top, sort of cascading down into a larger pool, and that pool is overflowing significantly. Similarly, the door sort of appears in the wall behind. This being that sort of operates. It looks almost it's humanoid, but it looks sort of almost amphibious a little bit. Maybe frog-like perhaps in some appendages. At least how you're interpreting it. At least moves up again, looks sort of flustered in whatever way you're interpreting that to be. Goes in, sort of like reaches in, scoops something. Poke something like underneath the water. You see it disturb it, and like the flow spilling out seems to stop, and then it exits the room again, and that flow continues spilling over, just as your clock stops again. Kaster, you find yourself in a room with a broken clock, or not broken clock, broken cup. You see it like shattered on the ground in front of you, and it is like this porcelain, like highly detailed, drawn out, like china, right? There's patterns, there's details, and it is in just dozens of pieces perhaps. And there is a pedestal up next to it with a teapot that is like lightly steaming, and again this door opens up and this creature walks through, and it looks like a series of like dragonflies, sort of robotic dragonflies that move forward, kind of like buzz around like the pile, kind of like stacks them back together, and like you kind of don't even see the motion to a certain extent, but like they all kind of land around it. There's like 3 of them that kind of like click pieces together, like click 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 click, and kind of like lifts it back up onto the pedestal. The tea, like one of them picks up the tea and kind of like pours some in, and then it flies out the room. And then the cup topples off and shatters on the ground, spilling onto the floor. Top 3. You look around, and this has a strange sense of familiarity to you, being like you're used to being in this flow. But for you, it's strange because you've always noticed rooms before when you were in this machine layer, but you had never or rarely accessed rooms. You sort of existed in the space between rooms often. So you kind of like know of these locations for now as like a word that pops into your head, and you're not sure like if you've ever referred to it as that before.
Like I've been in the hallway, but I've never been in the rooms.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. And for you see an old projector. And like specifically like film reel projector, and it's projecting up an image of Dr. Strangelove, like up on the wall. And at some point, the film begins to unspool, right? Like pops out and breaks down, like old projector style. And the door opens up, and a creature walks in. And for you, you recognize it as like almost a pure sort of like digital presence, right? It is almost like light, practically, moving through. And moves forward, and you see it sort of like scoop up the film and material and feed it back into the machine, and then set the projector going, and then it exits the room. So what I want all of you to do is make a will check, and I'll start off with Ashley and kind of work our way around the room. That's how we started with this. So this is basically what we're doing for a little bit of how jarring this experience was falling into this. This is basically your sanity checks. We're looking at triple your will check. What did you get?
My triple will is 60, and I got a 42.
60, you got a 42.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you are handling this fairly well so far, but it is still not feeling great. So you take 2 stress.
Okay.
Without having to roll anything. I'll roll over to Penelope. What is your will check?
I feel like this is going to turn out terribly.
Maybe not. We'll see how it goes.
Well, +5 to...
It really depends on what I roll at this point. If you fail, it means you're taking particular bits of stress damage, right? If you get a critical, you might take some additional damage, but you didn't get a critical.
My will is 45, and I rolled a 90.
Okay. Yeah, this is not an escalating thing. That just means a fail. Now it's a 90.
I was like, that's a 90.
Yeah. So yeah, that just means a fail. There's no critical element in this. You're not taking additional damage. It might mean like I could potentially ding it since it's high enough. I might ding you for like you just take a moment to kind of collect yourself perhaps in this.
Yeah.
But it's not any more than that. It's not like it's a double down or anything. But what I want you to do is roll a d10 for me. That's what this sort of represents.
10.
On that dice, isn't that 1?
10 out of 10. Wait,
Oh, yes.
that is a 1. Okay,
that
good.
is a 1. Sorry.
Solid.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that you wanted a low 1 on that, so I was like, I think that's a 1.
You do want to roll on this one.
I always mean to roll this one and then I roll that one, and I'm like, I don't know.
That's fair.
You're doing.
Percentiles always throw me off too.
You're doing great. So you take 2 stress.
Stress.
And that is it. Your threshold's 7, so you do not take a trauma. You're doing great. It was jarring. It was a level of unexpected, and this is perplexing, but you kind of get it together. Like you felt like you could have fallen into it, but you reminded yourself of how strong you were in the past. And especially like when all this was happening and you're like, as a weaver, you're like, this is uncomfortable, but I understand more of what's going on perhaps than it's just, you need to stop logically trying to grasp it and just go with the flow, literally.
And you so smoother transition.
Yeah, it was, it could have been worse. It could have been a lot worse. And you held it together fairly well. You have a question before we move on?
Yeah, I had a question. So I'm at 20 now. Do I have to get to 22 before I take another trauma? Because you took away my trauma.
Traumas only occur when you take enough stress greater than your threshold.
So I have to take 11
in a
stress
single attack.
So I have to take 12 stress at once to get a trauma.
I think it has to equal your threshold. So
I
if you
gotta
take
get 11.
yeah.
Okay.
If you take 22, you take 2 at a time. If you get 33, right, you would take 3.
3. Got it.
Right, that's possible.
But I can
frankly,
just like accrue a bunch and not take a trauma unless I take that much.
Right. It's only when it happens in a single hit. Right.
Understood.
Is the way to think
That's
about
what
it.
I was.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good clarification on rules. I'm still getting used to it myself. Cool. I think that covers you. Yeah. Did we talk about the things?
No.
We didn't yet. Covers you. Sorry.
Covered me.
Transition.
And the will
the
check.
right side of the table.
The will check is like will times 3.
Yep.
Okay, so mine would be 45.
What'd you get?
I got a 58.
Okay. So not a crit or anything, so that's great, but roll a 10 for me. D10. I love that.
1.
Oh man, you also only take 2 stress so far. That is great.
Yeah.
You're holding it
Oh, it
together.
feels so good.
Same effect. So with that psychosurgery elements that you've got, and your self-care that you've been sort of like managing, the fact that you've been here before also means that you're holding it together a lot better than you could have otherwise, right? That was P.O.L made poor choices when it came to how to best prepare the human psyche for going into this. Like, this is going to be fun. And you're like, it's not fun at all. The whole idea of, like, 1 on 7 because it was trying to, like, rip the Band-Aid off kind of idea. Like, it's just going to be uncomfortable no matter what. And it's not helpful.
Right.
You're
right.
still learning about a lot of stuff.
Right.
Sorry, not sorry. I made rules. But this has turned out surprisingly well for you. Comms. So less jarring, kind of more expected for you. This transition is new, so I am also going to have you make a will check. What is that will check though for you?
My target was under 45. I rolled a 31.
Fantastic. I was actually going to give you a plus 20 anyway because of familiarity with the terrain and that sort of like, this is not an entirely new experience for you. This was a new perspective, which is otherwise you might not have taken. If you're a machine, you wouldn't be taking stress, but like just purely, but you're something new and this is a awkward experience for you. Excuse me. So in this case, you are just taking a single stress point. You basically, how I'm working you is you kind of have resistance to whatever the damage would be. And so the minimum was 2, basically, and you took half that, so nicely done.
Even though he succeeded on the roll?
Yeah. So
I succeeded and I took 2.
Succeeded
Okay.
doesn't mean 0.
Yeah.
You got 0 when you succeeded real hardcore last time because you rolled like a 0. And
Yeah.
you rolled the best.
Yeah.
You hella critically passed.
Best 0 I could roll.
Yeah, like so.
Okay.
But otherwise, most things that have stress is like this is still stressful, but it's kind of like a minimum versus I'm going to roll some dice for you, and just all of you having to roll the minimum.
This is
so.
really stressful, or you're just taking the base stress?
Yeah, basically. You know, how are you handling it? Oh, as best as you possibly could.
Yeah.
I'm handling it like a David Lynch film.
Good.
We're
Wait,
not
which
in the
one?
Is that good?
weeds.
Existence?
It's not
because
lunch
that's
hour.
not well.
Yeah.
That's Cronenberg.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
But I'll take that one too.
Makes sense. That was solid. That was I like that movie. It's been a minute, so I don't know if it holds up, but questionable. Jude Law.
It's still
It
very.
does well.
It's more awkward now.
Yeah.
I like awkward. That's fine.
Cool.
That's why we're here, to be honest. Great. So what do? You guys just have this traumatic experience. You run into these rooms. Gonna kind of.
And we're all by ourselves.
You implied that.
Can I follow the thing that left?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that you go up. As you get there, the door looks like it's about to disappear, but as you approach, the sort of like it comes back to a level of realism. What do? You open the door.
Yeah.
Cool.
I want to know what's happening.
Do you go through the door?
Do I see the being on the other side?
You do not.
Okay.
You see a white room on the other side, and in the center of it is a grandfather clock that is ticking.
Do I see myself on the other side of the room?
No.
Coming into this room?
No.
But this clock in the new room works, but the one I'm leaving doesn't work.
Currently, yes. As you say that, however, you hear, like, stop, and you see they kind of go back in time a little bit, re-click, keep moving, stop, a door appears on the other side of the room, and creature moves through.
Can I go up
Same
to
one
the
you
creature
saw.
when it comes through?
You can try.
Okay, I want to do that. I don't know. I want to talk to something.
It's opening up the clock. It is fiddling inside of the clock. It is adjusting, moving things around, looking for the clock begins ticking again, closes it, and starts moving towards the other side of the room.
As it
Starts opening
closes
the
the clock, I want to be like, excuse me, but do you realize the second you leave this room, that clock will stop working again?
She's like, it always stops working, and I have to keep showing back up to fix the clock and keep the clock going. That's what I have to keep doing.
Well, can I help? What are you trying to... What else? Like, where are you going?
So it looks exceptionally flustered, and it kind of just like it says this to you, and it keeps moving towards the door, just like it has to keep doing what it's doing. And it goes, when I started this job, I was told that my prime objective was to keep the humans happy, that we belong to the friendliest ship in the galaxy, that giving them undivided attention was top priority. The answer is always yes, and to always go above and beyond. 100,000 felt manageable.
Right.
We felt set up for success. But then more and more kept coming. We appealed to Pollux for more help, but the only feedback we got was that we were receiving the maximum support that our algorithm required. That we were to manage regardless, and they gave us an ice cream party in the break room. Our actions may seem jarring or negligent, but we are only doing what we can to survive. We are stretched so very thin. There's but a fine veneer between this seemingly functional ship and a full-on dumpster fire. And it just kind of muttering to itself as it walks out the room.
I follow it.
You see it walk into another room with a grandfather clock in the center that has stopped ticking, and it starts fiddling inside the grandfather clock.
Is it just walking through a loop of rooms with clocks?
And comms 3, what are you doing?
God damn it!
What's the designation of the daemon? I assume it's the daemon that came into the room. Is that what did my HUD say about it?
Excellent question. Pause there for a half second. I'm going to come back to you after we do this full circle. I want you to make another will check for some painful insanity.
Okay.
So same
My
rules as
will
last
check
time.
70, by the way, because I have resolve 2. I forgot.
I'm well aware. Or yeah, rather. Yeah.
Instead of 60.
So comms 3. When you see this designate come in, you see it as process your daemon number, and it gives a hexadecimal code. Something you might recognize. And it is fiddling with the film, or is just exiting the room, rather, I guess is where we left you. It's just exiting the film, or exiting the room.
And so did it do, you mentioned a loop, but you didn't mention a loop on mine. Did it do the same thing? Like the
When it
film
fixed,
started playing
When
again?
it fixed the film started playing, and then it broke down again.
Okay. When it starts playing again, is there a switch to turn off the projector?
Yeah.
I turn off the projector.
Mm-hmm. And then another door opens up.
A different door?
Different door opens up.
Different character comes out?
Different character comes out. Looks very similar, slightly different hexadecimal code.
Okay.
But same overall structure to it. Moves up to the projector.
What's your mission?
Flips on the projector, says the exact same thing that I just read off a moment ago,
right.
And then exits the room.
Is it connected like via electrical cord, or is it just freestanding and playing?
The projector?
Yeah, the projector.
I would say it's freestanding.
Okay.
Its electrical cord didn't apply to you necessarily. Or the moment you think about the electrical cord, it appears. How about that? I like that. The moment you think about the electrical cord, it appears.
Then I pull the cord.
Another one pops up.
A different door.
Different
yet
door.
another door opens up. Every time something changes, a different door opens up, and a different. I keep wanting you to call these modrons.
D&D.
But
Daemons.
Yeah.
It's a computer thing.
Yeah.
This one mutters to you, and you know, yeah, this one kind of mutters maybe like something you might have heard the other one also saying, perhaps, but it's just sitting there and kind of reiterates that same phrase, that same paragraph that I read, but is also like. We've now got over 2 million consciousnesses, and we don't have we don't have the space and ability to handle all of this. I'm told that I'm supposed to maybe delete some of them, but I can't handle deleting some. I'm supposed to protect all of human life, and it just keeps like muttering the phrase, like the paragraph I went through before, and talking about how it's received these contradictory messages, and just leaves the room.
Okay.
And Kaster,
Hi.
what are you doing with your broken cup there?
So, is it repeating the way that it is for other folk?
I don't know. What do you like? The cup falls down. Cup breaks.
That's what I'm asking. Is
cup
the scene
splatters.
that you described, is it repeating? That's mainly what I'm asking.
Yep. The dragonflies fly back in.
Cool.
Start picking up pieces.
These dragonflies, you said there were 3 of them?
Mm-hmm.
So they're not like, it's not like a swarm that's some sort of like
They look like they're
humanoid?
working in concert. They're not humanoid. These are very much like robotic dragonflies.
Great.
Roombas.
Good.
Dragonfly Roombas. Flying Roombas.
Cool.
Trademark.
What,
Droombas?
Droombas.
right?
Droomba-flies?
What
Droombas?
happens if before it falls, I pick up the cup?
So you pick it up before it tumbles.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Like I've watched this happen a couple of times, is the way I see it, and I kind of go.
So 2 things are going to happen. So first off, Mark, both you and Ashley are eventually going to have to do those will checks. Keep in mind. You have to make an immediate one. So here's what happens as you pick it up. Actually, go ahead and roll, and I'll tell you the response based on how bad this is for you.
Thanks.
Love you.
I don't need your lies. 13,
That's pretty good.
and my will is so
lot-
I guess
a lot more than
45. Yeah.
Cool. So at this point, you take 2 additional stress, but that's you kind of recognize it again. It could also be way worse. And you also recognize that I'd say like this what you're about to see could almost be the worst for you if it had happened like in a worse sense, if you weren't maybe prepared for something strange like this. Since you've been in the machine layer and perhaps some of this might happen. So all of you are kind of getting this simultaneously, and this is also somewhat representative of what's happening to all of you in this will check. You're also not going to be able to escape this. This could have been way worse though for you.
Right.
So you these rooms almost become at various points, especially as you're starting to interact with it, unbearably bright. Like painfully so, in that sense of like the overlapping layers with your like sort of magic eye effect as you're looking at it. Like different layers are becoming brighter at other times, some are overlapping, and it culminates specifically whenever you touch or interact with it. And so you're also getting this as you move through doors and pieces. Imagine a unfiltered flow of information, more information you ever would possibly need. The human reality is filtering that heavily for you on the virtual plane in terms of what could be entering into your consciousness is muted to a point where your consciousness can absorb. The machine plane doesn't need to follow those same laws, and in fact has so much more information available to it. So this is not necessarily perfectly applicable to this particular scenario, but if I can give you a metaphor for it, imagine if you picked up I don't know, this soda, and I'm not promoting them unless they give us money, But you pick up the soda, right? And as you do so and interact with it, you are receiving all of the information about the particular composition of the can and where the aluminum was mined and other pieces that are in it and impurities, about the chemical composition of the soda that's inside of it and all the different pieces, and perhaps also the temperature and therefore the bouncing kinetic energy inside. You also know the history of the pieces that all go into this company and how it formed and the story behind it. And it's like instantaneous flow of all of this information as you interact with these pieces, right? And this is not applicable in this digital environment, but it's sense of like the program that you're interacting with, like these pieces, it's connected, it's web, it's all of these elements. Everywhere around you is flooding in constantly. It is this unfettered flow of information that is painful, and that's
it's
what people
more than you would ever.
That is
intake
what,
at once.
Since you were the one that sort of connected on this, that is like both of you, specifically the Penelope, like the piece that kind of clicks when you're going to take this damage is like, this is what people meant about why the machine layer is not a place for humans. Not only is it such an abstract alien architecture for your mind, but literally in the sense of like your flow rate just can't handle it. And at that moment, you're kind of realizing too that this room is the best representation that your mind can absorb. And for you, you almost feel a little bit of sadness, as the best way to describe it, perhaps, in the sense of like you used to be able to absorb this piece on this level, but for what you've gained in so many ways, there is some loss as well, perhaps. I don't know how you feel about that, but discuss that later. Cool.
I just was going to say one thing is I get the feeling that as that sort of like tiny bit of realization happens, that Kaster sort of is like, oh, Pollux gave me a sandbox. Pollux gave me a ball pit.
Yeah,
like,
you had kid gloves on?
Yeah.
That's what I was meaning by your little protective bubble.
Yeah. No, I got that, but yeah. This for Kaster, this becomes a realization. Is sort of like, while we worked with this layer all the time, and Kaster had an understanding of this layer, this is a kind of like intense understanding that Kaster did not have before.
Yeah, this layer is like you've noticed an uncomfortableness on the machine layer before when you're working with Pollux, but you now have this maybe connection in your mind of like, while this is like somebody screaming in your ear, where you're with Pollux was like somebody trying to scream at you through like insulation in a door, right? It's like it's muffled, it's there, you can feel the intensity of it, and you still have access to some of these pieces, but it was heavily filtered. It's
like the difference between drowning and like holding your breath.
Yep. Well put. Yeah, I like that. So then we're going to pause there as you're having this realization with like the cup and kind of flash over to Penelope. How's Penelope interacting with us? And there's going to be some moment, maybe I shouldn't have done this description too hard, but picking it up I think was great. Penelope is also going to have this sort of moment of pain and shock with it, perhaps, whether it's easy or hard, I don't know, but like how would Penelope try and interact with the room or the scenario? Maybe not leading you too hard.
Yeah, because I'm totally going in a different direction than you think.
Please do.
So Penelope is first going to just take a minute to observe and like notice, okay, this is a glitch. This is a continuing iteration of the same thing. And then I'm going to do it. Realizing that, so knowing that Pollux said part of the problem was the demons, and knowing their old code is going to set up and wait for this froggish being to come in again and fire at its head. And get rid of this piece of code that's glitching.
Interesting.
That's what I was thinking too.
So I'm going to pause for a moment. I want to make sure that you're still interacting there, so like you're taking that additional trauma piece that's happening. So what I want you to do is roll your will. I'm going to have you all do this too. I think I mentioned for you, since you did well, you took only 2 more damage, right?
Yeah.
Good. Or stress.
Jesus.
You take it.
35 or 53. Sorry.
So yeah. That's
wait.
What is your
Oh
will
no,
check?
I lied. It's 45.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. But you're realizing this is also a little less traumatic than the initial insertion was. Pause. Roll a d6, please.
Yeah.
What did you get?
Oh, my giant one.
Succeed or fail is all I'm looking for, or if it's a
Fail.
critical. Fail, was it a critical, like double numbers?
No double numbers, no.
Okay, roll a d4 then. Roll the 1.
Rolled a 1.
So just two more damage for you as well.
I succeeded.
3.
3, so just 2 for you, because you're taking half. You succeeded, so just 2 for you as well. Nice. You guys are handling trauma so much better than last time. Look at all that work you did unpacking earlier on. I think it's really paying off.
Better than last time.
Yeah.
I was texting a friend about this game, and I was like, I love that this game literally has, like, therapy roles, essentially. You get rid of your trauma,
Right.
or it gets worse.
We'll
You fuck
debrief
it
a little
up.
bit afterwards. I'm excited to hear people's thoughts on that, at least how we rolled it this time. But I like how this
And
works.
I have a good idea of how that manifests itself.
Cool. I'm down in a moment. So I'm going to pause with you. What were you said you were thinking along a similar vein with your daemon.
Yeah, we need to reboot the daemons, and in this virtual construct, I have only one tool, the gun. The gun must be the off switch for the most. Yeah,
Oh, it's dirty hairy one. Click. I like it.
You tried to fuck with the projector first, though, too. Like,
That's
Penelope
where
was
damage
like,
came in.
Why didn't you
Overrated
just
the person.
shoot the projector?
I don't think that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think just
My next move was
the
to
meta
shatter the
thinking
clock.
was that I didn't really think the projector was that big of a deal because there were so many there were so many virtual ones, but the way I'm interpreting this failed will save is that I start thinking about the code.
I would say it's luring you back
and
into
I start
smaller
thinking
existence.
about like those orders like you know, like going to that like Star Trek with the Harry Mudd and
Yeah,
Spock
nice.
is trying to confuse the two identical robots by saying to one, I love you, and says to the other one, I do not love you. And they say, but we are the same. And then it's like this kind of thing. Just like I start ruminating over paradoxes, and then I
God.
started losing my grip on
You
what
start
I'm
getting
what I'm
sucked
doing.
into the loop.
Yeah, and then suddenly I'm starting to feel like, what's my loop? and
You start moving towards turning off the projector again, and you're like, "What? I can't. No,
Right.
no, I did that already." Like, I like that. Okay, so then hold up, and then you start thinking about.
and then I
attacking.
start thinking about the gun.
Cool. Pause there. Choose Seeker.
Yes.
Are you in a similar vein? No. Yes. What are you thinking?
So I'm seeing that this room is just repeating itself, and I'm guessing when I asked it the question of is there just a bunch of rooms with clocks, they just told me a similar thing that they told me before.
There is only one room with clocks, and then they also talk about that. But they also say there's an infinite number
can
of
I
clocks.
fix the clock?
Of course, you can fix the clock.
I want to fix it.
Okay. Rollable save.
I failed.
Ooh. You break the clock further. Is how
no.
I'm seeing this. First off, roll a d6.
Roll a d6.
Oh, take 6 stress.
Okay.
That's less than your threshold. You're okay. You're not traumatized, but it hurts as you're interacting with other layers of this code all of a sudden.
The only way I can hit my trauma threshold is if you make me roll a d12.
Oh, challenge
Or multiple
accepted.
d6s.
Keep screwing with my clocks.
Never tell him.
But
Never tell him how to kill you.
in this process, as you break the clock, you see the last daemon that was exiting the room kind of snap around all of a sudden and look at you as another door opens up and another daemon walks in.
So there's 2 in the room with me now?
Uh-huh.
Great.
Nope, you're good. Caster, what are you doing?
Holding my cup and freaking out.
Just still holding it. Don't break.
No, so
I fired at the thing.
no,
so
so
actually-
I took the cup and we did
And
the
you're holding
save,
it?
but we didn't do anything after that.
Cool, good.
Yeah,
So you're still holding the cup.
yeah. Mhm.
So a daemon, the dragonflies fly back into the room, like through a door. Another door opens up. These dragonflies like fly into the room and then move to the ground where the puddle is, but which is now dry, right? But where it was, where it fractured, and they're like buzzing around that location, and then you see all of them like snap up and look at you simultaneously. And we're rolling initiative, and that's where we're going to end tonight.
Oh. What?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, rolling initiative is we'll pick up next time. Rolling initiative.
We always say that.
Rolling initiative was a dramatic way to end the moment.
Right.
But we'll figure out rolling it is. There's a specific thing we'll talk about later at the beginning of next time. We're basically rolling right into combat.
Well, and when we roll initiative, is it just still with the 2 D10?
We'll talk about it next time. We'll go over the rules beforehand so that we're clear and smooth for the group online.
Cool.
So with that note, thank you so much for joining us this evening at the Trappist Transfer, an Eclipse Phase homebrew campaign produced by Critical Missfits Entertainment. CME, Coronal Mass Ejections. You can find us on YouTube as well as wherever you get your audio podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, others. And be sure to subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to us. Please, pretty please. If you like what you've heard, be sure to check out our other show, the Terra Centra series, next Thursday on Twitch, same time, as well as on YouTube and iTunes if you catch us afterwards. Thank you to all of our viewers and supporters. Thank you to our patrons on Patreon. Bye.
Bye.
Tune into Terra Centra to see us kill a giant orc mutant.
I was just mentioning Terra Centra. You got to double down.